My friends, I need you to stop what you're doing right now because what I'm about to share with you could mean extra money in your pocket this February. And I don't want you to miss out on a single dollar that's rightfully yours. If you're one of the millions of Americans who depend on Social Security, SSI, or SSDI to pay your bills, put food on the table, and keep the lights on, then this message is specifically for you. Now, I know how confusing all these government announcements can be. Trust me, I get letters and messages every single day from folks just like you who are worried, frustrated, and honestly a little scared about whether their checks are going to cover everything they need. You've worked hard your entire life. You've paid into the system for decades, and you deserve to know exactly what's happening with your benefits. So today, I'm sitting down with you, just like we're having coffee at your kitchen table, and I'm going to walk you through everything you need to know about the February 2025 Social Security raise, who actually qualifies for this new payment, and most importantly, what you need to do to make sure you're getting every single penny you're entitled to. Because here's the truth that nobody else is going to tell you. There are folks out there who are getting more money than they expected, and there are others who might see unexpected reductions if they don't understand how these new rules work. And I want to make absolutely sure you're in that first group. Now, let me start by giving you the good news first, because I know so many of you have been waiting anxiously to hear about this. The Social Security Administration implemented the 2025 cost of living adjustment back in January, and that COLA increase of 2.5% is now fully reflected in your February payments. I know, you might be thinking, but I thought we already got that increase in January. And you're absolutely right. But here's what's happening in February that's different, and why this month is so important for certain groups of beneficiaries. The SSA has announced that anyone who qualifies for both Social Security retirement or disability benefits and supplemental security income is now receiving their recalculated payments. And for many of you, that means your February check could be noticeably higher than what you received last month. Let me explain this in plain English because the government documents make it sound way more complicated than it actually is. If you're receiving regular Social Security retirement benefits, your average monthly payment for February 2025 is now around $1,976, up from about $1,927 before the COLA adjustment. That's an increase of roughly $49 every single month. And my friends, that adds up to nearly $600 over the course of the year. Now, if you're on Social Security Disability Insurance, that's SSDI, your average payment is sitting at about $1,579 per month, compared to $1,540 before. For those of you who depend on SSI, which is supplemental security income, the maximum federal benefit amount has increased to $967 for an individual, up from $943. And if you're married and both you and your spouse qualify for SSI, you're looking at a maximum of $1,450 combined, up from $1,415. But here's where things get really interesting, and this is the part that affects a specific group of people who might be sitting there wondering why their neighbor got a bigger increase than they did. The Social Security Administration has been working through what they call benefit recalculations for people who became eligible for benefits late in 2024, or who had changes in their work history, their disability status, or their living arrangements. What this means in real terms is that if you applied for benefits in the last quarter of 2024, or if you went back to work for a little while and then stopped, or if you moved in with family members or changed your living situation, the SSA might have needed extra time to calculate exactly what you should be getting. Those recalculations are now showing up in February payments, and for some folks, that means they're seeing a catch-up payment that includes back pay from previous months when they should have been receiving the higher amount, but the system hadn't processed it yet. Let me give you a real example so this makes perfect sense. I heard from a gentleman named Robert who lives in Ohio, and Robert retired in November of 2024 at age 62. He started receiving his reduced Social Security benefits in December, but because his application was processed right at the end of the year, his initial payment didn't include the full COLA adjustment that was coming in January. When February rolled around, Robert noticed his payment was about $73 higher than he expected, and he called me worried that the government had made a mistake and was going to want that money back. But what had actually happened was the SSA had recalculated his benefit to include the proper COLA adjustment retroactive to when he should have received it. Plus, they adjusted for some additional work credits he had earned in the final months before retirement that hadn't been counted in his initial calculation. That extra $73 wasn't a mistake. It was money he had rightfully earned, and it's going to be part of his payment every single month going forward. Now, I also need to talk to those of you who are on both Social Security and SSI, because this is where the February payments get a little tricky, and understanding this could save you from a nasty surprise down the road. If you receive both programs, and about 3 million Americans do, your SSI payment is actually reduced dollar for dollar by the amount of your Social Security increase. I know that sounds completely unfair, and I've gotten so many frustrated calls about this, but here's how it works and why you still need to pay attention. Let's say you were getting $800 in SSI and $500 in Social Security before the COLA increase. After the COLA, your Social Security goes up to $512, that's an extra $12. But because you're getting more from Social Security, your SSI payment will drop by that same $12, so you're still getting the same total amount. The reason this matters for February is that sometimes the SSA systems don't synchronize perfectly, and you might see your Social Security increase show up before your SSI reduction does, or vice versa. If you notice your SSI payment is lower in February, don't panic. Check to see if your Social Security payment went up by the same amount, because that's likely what happened. For my friends who are veterans receiving both VA disability compensation and Social Security, I've got important news for you too. The Department of Veterans Affairs implemented their own COLA increase for 2025, and if you're getting VA disability benefits, those went up by 2.5% as well, completely separate from your Social Security increase. What this means is that if you're a veteran who also worked long enough to qualify for Social Security retirement or SSDI, you're actually getting both increases, and they don't offset each other the way Social Security and SSI do. A veteran I know named Margaret from Texas is getting $1,800 in VA disability for a 70% rating, plus $1,200 in Social Security retirement, and both of those amounts went up by 2.5%. That's an extra $75 every month that she's keeping entirely with no reductions, and she told me that extra money is going straight to her prescription costs, which seem to go up every year no matter what. Now let's talk about the payment schedule for February, because this is where I see people get confused and worried every single month. If you started receiving Social Security benefits before May 1997, your payment comes on the 3rd of every month. Since February 3rd falls on a Monday this year, those payments went out right on schedule. But if you started receiving benefits after May 1997, your payment date depends on your birth date. If you were born between the 1st and the 10th of the month, your payment comes on the 2nd Wednesday, which is February 12th. If you were born between the 11th and the 20th, you get paid on the 3rd Wednesday, which is February 19th. And if you were born between the 21st and the 31st, your payment arrives on the 4th Wednesday, which is February 26th. SSI payments, on the other hand, always come on the 1st of the month, but because February 1st fell on a Saturday this year, those payments actually went out on Friday, January 31st. I know it seems like the government is making this way more complicated than it needs to be, but once you know your personal schedule, you can mark it on your calendar and know exactly when that money's going to hit your account. Here's something else that's absolutely critical, and I cannot stress this enough. If you're working while receiving Social Security benefits and you're under your full retirement age, you need to understand the earnings limit, because this is where people can get into real trouble and end up with benefit reductions they didn't expect. For 2025, if you're under your full retirement age for the entire year, you can earn up to $23,400 without affecting your benefits. But for every $2 you earn above that limit, Social Security will withhold $1 of your benefits. Now, if you reach your full retirement age during 2025, there's a different, higher limit of $62,160, and the withholding is only $1 for every $3 you earn over that amount. And once you reach your full retirement age, there's no earnings limit at all. You can make as much as you want without any reduction. The reason I'm bringing this up in relation to the February payments is that if you worked a lot in late 2024 and exceeded the earnings limit, the SSA might be starting to withhold some of your benefits now, and that could make your February payment lower than you expected, even with the COLA increase. I also want to address something that's been causing a lot of anxiety in the senior community, and that's the question of whether these benefit increases are going to push you into a higher tax bracket or cause your Medicare premiums to go up. Let me tackle Medicare first, because that's what affects most of you immediately. The standard Medicare Part B premium for 2025 is $185 per month, which is actually $1.90 higher than last year. Now, if you're a higher income beneficiary, and that means your modified adjusted gross income was more than $103,000 if you're single, or more than $206,000 if you're married, you'll pay more than the standard premium based on what's called IRMA, the income-related monthly adjustment amount. The COLA increase in your Social Security benefits won't directly cause your Medicare premiums to jump up, but if your overall income has been increasing over the past couple of years, you might see your IRMA adjustment change based on your 2023 tax return, which is what Medicare uses to determine your 2025 premiums. As for taxes on your Social Security benefits, this is something a lot of people don't realize until they get a surprise at tax time. If your combined income, that's your adjusted gross income plus non-taxable interest plus half of your Social Security benefits, is between $25,000 and $34,000 for an individual, or between $32,000 and $44,000 for a married couple, up to 50% of your Social Security benefits could be taxable. If your combined income is higher than those amounts, up to 85% of your benefits could be taxable. The COLA increase might push some people who were right on the edge into the taxable range, so it's worth sitting down with a tax preparer or using tax software to see where you stand, especially if you have other income from pensions, retirement accounts, or part-time work. My friends, let me wrap this up by giving you the most important action steps you need to take right now. First, check your bank account or mailbox to make sure your February payment arrived with the correct amount. If something seems off, don't wait. Call the Social Security Administration at 1-800-772-1213 or visit your local Social Security office. Second, if you're working while collecting benefits, keep careful track of your earnings so you don't accidentally go over the limit and face benefit withholding later. Third, set up or log into your My Social Security account online at ssa.gov if you haven't already, because that's where you can see your exact benefit amount, your payment history, and any letters or notices from the SSA. And finally, if you're struggling to make ends meet even with the COLA increase, look into programs like SNAP Food Assistance, LIHEAP for help with heating bills, and the Medicare Extra Help Program for prescription drug costs. You've earned these benefits through decades of hard work, and there's no shame in getting the assistance that's available to you. You deserve to retire with dignity, with enough money to live comfortably, and with the peace of mind that comes from understanding exactly what you're entitled to. That February payment sitting in your account right now represents more than just numbers. It represents your years of sacrifice, your contributions to this country, and your right to financial security in your golden years. So make sure you're getting every dollar you've earned and never hesitate to ask questions or seek help when something doesn't make sense. You're not alone in this, and I'm here to help you navigate these confusing systems every step of the way.